Alright, this question says, find the x and the y intercepts of this equation. Y equals the absolute value of x minus 8. Now, the question probably that's coming up is, not fully understanding what absolute value means. And you have to remember that absolute value is really nothing more than the distance from 0. So for instance, let's say if we were looking at a number line and I wanted to know what is the absolute value of negative 2. Well, negative 2 would be right over here. Because that is 2 units away from 0, the absolute value of negative 2 is 2. It is the distance from 0 of negative 2. Alright, now let's see what in the world this question is asking and how we can go about doing that. This says to find the x and the y intercepts of this equation. So what we know about every single x-intercept is that the y value is always 0. Well, we can use that then and plug that into our equation. So instead of y, I'm going to plug in 0 equals the absolute value of x minus 8. And now we're going to solve this. So I'm going to move the 8 over to the other side by adding 8. So 8 will equal the absolute value of x. Now what this says is, when I figure out the distance from 0 of some number, that is 8 units. Well, the number 8 is 8 units away from 0, so x could be 8. Or negative 8 is also 8 units away from 0. So x could also be negative 8. That gives us 2 x-intercepts. The first intercept would be the point 80, and the second x-intercept would be the point negative 80. Those are both x-intercepts. Now for our y-intercepts. For every single y-intercept, they all have in common that the x value is 0. So we can use that too. We can say y will equal the absolute value of 0 minus 8. Now remember, absolute value means distance from 0. So this literally says how far from 0 is 0. Well, that would be 0 units. So the absolute value of 0 is 0, minus 8 is negative 8. So our y-intercept is the point 0, negative 8. Now the next part of the problem is asking you for symmetry. So we need to know, is this equation symmetric to the x-axis? Well, in your definition of symmetry, it said that to try and show this, you have to replace the y value with negative y. So let's do that. Instead of y, we'll put in negative y equals the absolute value of x minus 8. Now, there's nothing really that we can do to simplify this except to say negative y equals the absolute value of x minus 8. This is not the same equation that we started with. It's something completely different. So no, there is no symmetry with respect to the x-axis. Now we have to show if it is symmetric with respect to the y-axis. So for y-axis symmetry, we replace the x with negative. So I'm going to rewrite my equation, and instead of x, I'm going to replace that with negative x. Now because this is absolute value, the negative x is going to be x units away from 0. Whatever this number should turn out to be, if x is 5, then negative 5 is still 5 units away from 0. So it is the exact same thing to say the absolute value of negative x is the same as the absolute value of x. Because that is the same equation that we began with, there is y-axis symmetry. Oh, whoops. Show this one. Sorry about that. Now we're going to do some origin symmetry. For origin symmetry, we replace both the x and the y and see if we have the same equation. Well, negative y is just negative y, but the absolute value of negative x is the same, so this is not the same as the original.